can start.
Yeah.
So good evening, everybody. Welcome to our next lecture in the Reflections of Architecture series, which is part of the Empathy in Art project, which is supported by Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway through the EEA grant. This was the important information, right, at the beginning. I'm very proud to welcome today architect Espen Rahlff from the office 3RW Arkitekter, if I pronounced it correct. Hopefully, yes. Thank you very much to you that you are with us, and just very briefly, because I already introduced this very interesting office to you, our dear students, but I just want to remind you that 3RW Arkitekter office, which is interested not only in architecture, but in the same time in nature and in art. Our dear guest is at the same time teacher at the Bergen School of Architecture, where he has his own program, but he will tell more about this during his lecture. I have shown you some of examples of their work on scenic roads around the Norwegian coast, or the beautiful memorial they have done on Utøya Island. And I think today we will see also some examples of the extremely exciting work your office is doing in rewilding of the Norwegian nature, or let's say devastated nature. I will not talk more about you, because you are more like you are the right person to talk about your work. So once again, thank you for coming, and the floor is yours, Espen.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be able to hold this lecture for you guys. So hello, everybody. I will then go straight on I need to open my presentation. So I will share my screen first. Yes. And then I hope I have.
Yes, great. We can see your screen.
Yes. So I think it's this. Okay, I opened this in the wrong mood. I just have to shortly take away some stuff here. Sorry for this.
Don't worry.
Oh, it's but like this. Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, that's okay. Oops. No. Like this, yes. Yes, I'm Espen Rahlff from 3RW Architects. I will emphasize this lecture on landscapes. I will go through different topics. First, I will tell you a little bit about the first month at the Bergen School of Architecture, how we prepare our students for meeting architecture. Then I will present some of our works from the Norwegian scenic routes. Then I will briefly talk a little bit about this memorial we made at Utøya after the terror attack in 2011. And then I will end up with this project we have called landscape healing, that is rewilding nature. I will come back to that. So, for those who don't know where we are, where I'm sitting now, it's exactly on this yellow spot. That is Bergen. We are on the west coast of Norway, and Bratislava is here. So you are all very welcome to visit us anytime if you want to go to Norway. It's not travel time for the moment, but that may change, hopefully soon. Bergen School of Architecture started in 1986, founded by a professor in architecture called Svein Hatle that had very nice connections to the architect in Poland called Oskar Hansen. So our school is based on the architect theory thing called open form, if you know anything about that. I will not go into that now. I will more tell you about the first month of the first year for our first year students, and it's all about understanding the landscape. So we gather the people, 30 students coming in to the first class every year, 15th of August. We have some small task with them at that day, and then prepare them for a trip that are going to be out on some Norwegian west coast island for a month in tents, almost all by themselves. The second day where we travel, we have this old professor specialized in the Norwegian building history. They are going on this island to meet the local building tradition that is 3,000-year-old tradition that we have here on the west coast. I will come back to that. At 5 o'clock that same day, they travel with these boats, fast ferries out from Bergen. Here you can see part of Bergen from the harbor. They are going then from Bergen to what is called Solund. That is some groups of islands that are the most western points of Norway, situated on the north side of Sognefjorden, and this is Sognefjorden. This is one of the largest and deepest fjords in the world. It's almost going to the border of Sweden, that is here. So when in old days people wanted to go to Oslo, they actually took the boat, rowing or sailing all the way into the fjord, and then they climbed the mountain, and then they went down to Oslo. So this is the west coast of Norway. Is a very special part of Norway, actually, where we have a lot of sea meeting land. It's not high mountains in this area. So it was when the ice covered Norway. It was the first part of being free of ice, and also where the first people inhabited Norway, where they could find food. To travel on this boat, very excited, 30 students. This trip is quite known since the school has been going on with almost the same program since '86. So there are some architect students that starts at BAS mainly of the reason of this course. So this is again Sognefjorden, and then you see Solund is these islands here. It consists of 1,600 islands, and the municipality here is inhabited by 800 people. So they have almost 2 islands each. We prepare them on the first day. We are in the municipality center, renting a municipality house. We have this Christian Mong. He's a landscape ecologist, knowing everything about the plants in this region. So he gathered all the plants from the underneath the sea up in the rocky parts, and he go through this to make the students to know what plants can handle a lot of water and what plants don't handle water at all. They die if they get too much water and so on. So these people that you see here are able to find themselves a camp to stay almost a month, but they have a different program every week. But for the first week, they are staying out on camps on these islands that are marked here. This is modern, but it's not the modern, but it's a new built house that is this traditional house that we have on the West Coast. The reason why we have these types of construction in our house at the West Coast is because the West Coast in the old days didn't consist of much wood or forest. Like on the other side of the mountains in Norway, that belongs to the big taiga area of Sweden, Finland, and Russia. They had a lot of wood, and they could make wood logs, putting all these beams on top of each other from the ground and up. But here on the West Coast, we had so little tree that they had to develop another type of building tradition, and it's called in English, column house. You see, it's this column that keeping up the building with these beams, and then a very interesting knot to keep this together, to take the load from the roof and down to the ground. And then these inclined small beams here are stabilizing the whole house. So it's a building tradition coming from the Viking Age, that you can, the long house you probably heard of, so this structure you can build as long as you want, but you cannot make them broader than you have a wood, a piece of a tree. So it's a very sufficient wood house made of as less wood as possible. Then this is an open house. If this was a living house, they would cover the walls, of course, with some other timber that you could easily change when it was rotten or too old. But as long as this big construction here are underneath a roof that where no water come in, this can stand for many, many hundred years. The third day at 9, I can't see it actually, I have to put this down here. At 19, they're going out to the islands. And the class is divided in 4 groups. Each group has their own island and will stay there for a week. And then they will do, oops, no, it was hanging here. You hear me, huh? I have not lost you.
No, we are here and we can hear you.
Good, that's good. So task 1 for 1 week is actually making a camp. You can see the tents down here, and to regulate the island and landscape and the formation of the landscape, to be aware of the wind and the rain that hits these islands, of course, every day. We have different ecologists that goes through the plants, so they really can find a place where it's less water, and also where they, in a way, can look at the plants to detect if it's going to rain, where it's then going to be wet. These islands are made of conglomerate. I don't know this English word, but it's like river stones that has been deep down in the earth, melted by the earth heat, and then pressed up again in above sea level over millions of years, of course. But we have this mountain chain in Norway. Our mountains are part of the Caledonian mountain line that has been as big as Himalaya is today. Now it's just small mountains left. Or we have big mountains in Norway, but here in Solund, they are not that high. This is a mountain that are 300 or 400 meters high. So here you see their camp, and they measure this up, making a map, and then they map things like where the sun hits this camp for the first in the morning, where it goes down in the evening, where the wind is taking, where the water comes, how they use it, how they live here, how they make food, and how they are able to work. Whoops, yeah. And the result is maps and stuff like this. My arrows doesn't work, but that I need to use my mouse, but that's okay. Task 2 is to restore these buildings that are all around in this area, used for boats or fishing nets or fishermen. In this region, they have been peasant in the summer and then was fishing in the winter time. So they needed a lot of houses that could contain their equipment and boats and stuff. Today, it's not working like that anymore, and local people don't have the money to take care of these buildings. So for these students to learn about the building method and to learn about wood and to learn about how the climate are hitting and tearing down these buildings if the roof are not tight and the pressure on the facade and stuff, they fix one of these houses every year. So I think now for the last 11 years we have fixed 5 of these houses. So they are not. So they are now prepared to live another 100 years or something like that. So here they work together with professional carpenters, and they have 1 week each on, for instance, this house. This is some pictures for some years ago, but you see how it was looking. And then there are some new facades. And today this house is saved. I don't have a recent picture of that, but you see here the roof with holes in, and that is, of course, dead to a building. This is another house they are fixing. I've been fixing some years ago. So they do everything. They put on a roof, facade, changing beams and columns. And they also draw this up. They register what they are doing every day. So they make type of a log, what equipment they use, and then they use traditional old equipment. Nothing on, they have a drill, I guess, with battery, but not bigger equipment and that. Then task 3 is to surveying these houses. So they measure it, and then they draw it down on paper with measures, so they can rebuild this house if it should fall down before we are able to save it, or the school are able to save it. And I guess for a first-year student, this is quite the task for people that haven't done this type of work before. But it will train them to be able then to go on through their first year and then really have drawn details and everything. So they do this by making a cross in this building and then measure out of this cross that put up in rope. So they have a reference that they can put on the drawing, and then they make these, quite beautiful drawings. I'm very impressed every year that actually first year, the first task they ever have, actually, for some of the groups are this type of level. We teachers are there every week, giving them a new task, saying hello, but we only come up in the weekends. So we present what they are going to do, learn them a little bit how to do it, and then we leave them. But then after 2 weeks, we come up and then we look at their work. So it's actually not before after 2 weeks where we can look at their work and comment it that they actually know what we were expecting them to do. So this day, after 14 days, is really the day that they really learn a lot. So we then go through all their works, having a look, commenting it, and so on. It's a very nice day we have there, a weekend with them, where we're making old traditional food by making a fire in the ground, putting then sheep legs with, aluminium foil. We have to be a little bit modern, down in this hole, and then we put the stone over the hole and leave it there for 2.5 hours. And after that, we dig it out, and we have the most beautiful sheep meat you can imagine. This area is very known for their wild sheep, a lot of the people in Solund today, they have wild sheep going around on these islands. And it's as close as you get to vegetarian food or meat, I would say, if that's possible to say. So and then we teach and make them a big dinner to have a little bit of party, to say that we are very proud of them, that they are able to stay out here alone. And then after this dinner, they have 14 days left of their stay in Solund. And at the end of these 4 weeks, we make a big exhibition of all their work. It's 30 students been working every day. So we present that for the local community at a place up in the community center. And there are coming some people. We have been there now for 15 years in Solund. Before that, we were on another island, and then another place before that. So, but they really like us, that we come here every year. So then the exhibition looks like this. Is the drawing of the surveyings, and they have some art tasks to do as well, the registration of their camps and so on. So that was a little bit on how we start making our architect students aware that nature has a big impact on our architecture here in Norway. We have a lot of weather, especially on the west coast. Then I'm going to take another theme that we as Arkitekter 3RW and a lot of other offices in Norway have been doing last 20 years. And that is more of protecting the landscape. Norway is quite famous for its nature and landscape and fjords and mountains. And every year there are a lot of tourists coming, driving around in this landscape of Norway to look at these spots. And at some point the Norwegian department thought that actually this tourism is destroying the landscape, the nature, because it's overflooded by people, and they don't know in a way how to behave, or they're walking around in very crucial plants and stuff on this coastline. So they came up with this idea that they wanted to make 11 routes around in Norway for tourists. But they wanted them, there were lack of toilets, there were lack of how to handle people at these spots and so on. So they started this program of making these scenic points with facilities as parking places and toilets and so on. And they gave this project out to young Norwegian offices. So when we started our office in around 1999, 2000, we got through a landscape architect office the opportunity to start working with some of these spots. And now we are not young anymore, so they shouldn't give these tasks to us anymore. They should really find young architects. They do. Also, but they are hanging a little bit in the old offices where they know what they can get. But I constantly tell them that you have to find young new architects to do this. This program actually was putting the Norwegian architecture on the international architectural map. It has been really big for us. We have been all around in the world talking about these very small architectural things that actually this national tourist routes or scenic routes contains of. And it was good money for us, and it was really a flying start for our office to do this. I will quickly show you some of these projects. Now this is Sognefjorden, almost. So if you go out to the sea, you will hit Solund, where the students are. But this is way down in and that's actually not right. It's up here. It's another fjord. Okay, but if you go out there, you go out the fjord to the left, you will hit the Atlantic Ocean. This is Geiranger, very famous fjord for their big mountains, their deep fjord, and their waterfalls. And they have these 11 turnarounds to access this place by car. It's actually closed, can be closed during the winter. No access to this small community if this road is by boat, of course, but that's then the only thing you can hit this community by if this road is closed in the wintertime. So this is a very famous viewpoint, has always been in this road called Ørnesvingen. In English it will be the Eagle Turn. It's situated 630 meters above sea level. So these mountains that are in here that you see around here are almost 1,500 meters high, and the fjord are almost 1,500 meters deep. So this is a canyon with a span of around 3,000 meters, and that's quite impressive. What you see here on your right is our kind of viewpoint to this. To save the nature, people were walking around in this wood forest here on very steep paths, quite dangerous. So we needed to secure a view spot for them. We needed also to be able to handle cars and stuff. But here you see a little bit of the concept of this flat, kind of just a tribune or a public flat space. So, and it's situated up in this hillside where you can look in and out the fjord. The municipality, they are so proud of this place, of this turn, that they actually wanted a tower here. So they can be down in this village and they could point up on this tower. But we said to them, do you really want a tower 630 meters above sea level? Is it necessary? So for them to be able to point this out, we made this small waterfall that you saw on some of the pictures. This should blink when there is sun, so the people are able to point it out from down there. There is a lot of great stories and history about the area with small farms up, very high up in the mountainside. The only place they were actually able to stay with some flat grass and to have some cows or sheep. So we took a picture of this landscape and we mounted on a glass, I don't know if I have, yes, this picture, to point out for them if they found the right position in the front of this glass panel, they can actually figure where these red, it's not so easy to see, but where these points are, so they can see the stories that they have heard when they come as tourists in the village. They are invited into a building that you saw, this stolpe, this traditional West Coast building, and then there they get a lecture about the history of the place, and then they come up here afterwards, and then they can actually find out where this is, that they have heard these stories. So it's all about these small farms where people have lived for hundreds of years, climbing these paths. It's a funny story about the taxman coming to have a tax from this farm. And they heard that the taxman was on his way and it just took up the ladder. So the taxman had to stop somewhere here. He wasn't able to reach the farm. So then they could avoid paying tax. Yeah, some pictures of this. This is actually one of the biggest cruise ships in the world. So this is provided. I think there's a lot of Norwegian films, if you have that are filmed here, or like even I think Tom Cruise has been filming here. It's going very popular. It's very little. It's just this steps and somewhere to throw away their waste, and a little longer up the road there is a bus stop. On the other side of this valley, we was before up here. This is the community, the small center. Here there is another very famous spot called Flydalsjuvet, Fly Valley Canyon in English, where you have a specific stone that 300 meters down in the valley on the river there. We was supposed to make toilets, and what you see here is toilets actually for the tourists. We thought it would be interesting for the tourists to find out about Norwegian building history. This is a lodge. This you know from Bratislava. This is all around in Europe. But this is not this, you can see the difference between this building system and the one that I presented before out in Solen. That this takes a lot more wood, but it's also for places that have more wood. And of course, one history, it was also possible to get wood to these areas, but it's not that common. But we were taking down an old farmhouse that contained wood, and we rebuilt it with a carpenter into these toilets. We wanted to, in a way, show the inside or the main construction of this type of building, putting it up on some glass to really emphasize the wood in this building, putting it up as a border to this very steep and slate stone thing for this viewpoint that is further down to the right, putting it up very tight together, so it was in a way as a contrast to the open wide viewpoint. You walk through these lodges and then you get out to the viewpoint. I don't know if we have pictures of the viewpoint, but we have the inside. This crossing between very traditional new timber, old timber, light inside, lifting it up, making it very emphasized as a very specific building construction. So the viewpoint is through these small, narrow pathways and then into this open thing. I don't have a picture of this viewpoint. That's bad. Next time. We also made some viewpoints on the Atlantic Road. That's a very famous road that are going all the way out at the Atlantic Ocean. This is a very small place. It's here, called Askvågen. It's a small, safe harbor for the fishing boats due to this pier that is made in stone here. That in Norway we call it a molo. And if it hadn't been for this pier here, this harbor wouldn't be safe at all. This is a bay that is not safe with a lot of waves, and same as this. So the whole society relies on this small molo, where we situated a stone, this stone here that was falling down from the mountain, that was landing in the middle of the road just some kilometers from this place. We cut it flat. We put it on the outside at the end of the molo, so people are able to, in a way, stand here on the outside of the protected molo and, in a way, understand just by using it the importance of this molo. So here you see the fisher boats. It's like this, a lot of fisher boats. And then this molo, this pier, and then our flat stone at the end with some glass and a small stair up to it. And that's it. That's the whole viewpoint. But you are able to, in a way, go on the dangerous side of these big stones. So it's a little bit self-explaining in a way. And then we made some benches and stuff, but the most important part is, of course, this stone. Cheksa viewpoint is a little bit further north of this, a place that is also very famous for a lot of tourists, and they were just walking around in this very fertile landscape with plants that are really struggling to grow at all in this salty water, a lot of storm, waves, rain, snow in the winter. So we made this small path down to the sea for them. At the street or at the road when they stop, making this platform with this funny stone that are green. It's actually glass. It's not glass. It's a side product of making aluminium that Norway are quite famous for. But it's this glass feeling stones that we have to tumble in a tumbler so it gets round and not. You don't cut yourself on it, but it's here, this thing. So all these projects that we're making for the scenic routes, we try to make it as a contrast to the real nature, so that the real nature is emphasized instead of the architecture in a way. So the architecture is as small and it's not yelling a lot, and it's explaining in a way and emphasizing the feeling that people can have when they come here. So you see this green is not the natural green. This is the natural green. And it's situated here. The sea is here. So here is another small platform where you can sit, just 10 people or something. And then it's very clear where you have to walk through this landscape. So by doing this, people are walking on this because it is quite wet and to walk in the nature here. So I think this place has actually managed to do that. This nature is now protected from being walked on all the time. Yeah, some detailed picture here. You see this these stones that are quite edgy, but if you put them into this machine, making them round, it's possible to get it so you don't hurt yourself. Herøyane is in south of Bergen, also in a fjord, Hardangerfjorden, a very famous fjord. This place is very famous for their slate production. All of this that you see here is slate that they cut down and make for building stone walls. It's easy to cut them quite straight so you can build walls. So we thought, and they needed a toilet here, so we said, okay, let's build a toilet out of slate. So they got this building, built from the local slate producers, putting it up also on a platform, and the whole thing in a way as a contrast to the existing nature, so that the existing nature is the one that you see. Of course, you can't avoid to see this building as well, with a little bump. Perhaps it's something over here. And these slate, traditional slate walls are rough, actually. But we said it was a discussion that came from, this wood, the toilets were made in wood that I just presented, where we got a lot of criticism because these wood construction don't stand without a roof. And they didn't think it was a building at all. So we said, okay, let's give them a house, a real house. So we took the most simple form of a house, built it in slate, almost like a sarcophag. It was the meaning that this house should have a brother or sister at the other side of this road that is going into another fjord, and being the opposite, being rough on the inside and then very straight on the inside. But at the end, it was only this house that was made on this yellow platform. You see here is the rough inside and the very straight outside. We tend to call it $1 million toilet because it cost a lot of money to do. Quite not that easy to build technically either, with water and so on, but I think it's tight. I think this is my last scenic route project. Is up here more into the mountain. It's an old bridge that used to be here to get from the west coast to the east coast of Norway. We are then completing this circle with a new type of bridge, being able to see down in this canyon where there is a river going. So this is the old bridge, and then we put another bridge continuing this circle. Here you see some old picture where it's not almost able to drive a bus here, although this must be in the 50s or something. This bridge is made in 1883 originally. And this is our new proposal. It's not built yet, but it will come. I have heard it take some time. Yeah, that was our kind of taking care of the nature projects. I will talk briefly. How much time have I used? Oi. It's okay. This is the memorial that we made after the terror attack at Utøya in 2011. And it's more about landscape healing people. Of course, it was this enormous tragedy on this island. The island is owned by the youth political party of the Labour Party in Norway. We made this clearing, it's called. There is one spot on this island where no people were killed. That was important. It has a beautiful view over the fjord. It has this circular iron thing hanging from the trees with all the names of the people that were killed. The idea was to make this clearing in the woods kind of technically heavy, but we used then the trees to keep up this name thing. The name thing is a good, we found a good way of dealing with the names, because there is no ending and no beginning of where these names begins. Yep. We also worked on this project with the same guy, Christian Mong, that is this nature ecologist that knows a lot about plants and animals. He walked around on the island and found out there was a lot of plants that were good for sommerfugler på engelsk, on English, these sommerfugler is these small birds, colored, it's not birds, insects with wings. I have any people to ask. Oh my, that slipped my mind. Perhaps there are some pictures of it. I can check it. Sommerfugler, nej. That slipped my mind. I will check it. Sorry for using time on that. But he found out that there was a lot of plants that were good for these animals to feed on when they are a puppy, when they are small. But there were not so many plants for them to eat when they grow up. Butterflies. Sorry, butterflies. They have one plant that they live on when they are in this kokong, small thing. And then when they grow out of that, they need other plants to eat, to feed on. So in this place, we planted a lot of these plants where they could feed. So when the people come here in summer times, there are a lot of butterflies in this area. We thought that was quite a nice way of also keeping the butterflies on the island, because they were going away to feed on other plants on the mainland. We did this project together with the parents of these kids that died. And they were very happy in a way to make the memorial for their own kids and families together with the rest. So the people that wanted to take part, we made these weekends where we met them, and all these parents and brothers and sisters, they could do something. Some of them told, I'm very good in putting down slate, I can make a group, I am good in wood cutting, I can plant these flowers, and so on. So they all, not all of them, but a lot of the people were living on this island for these weekends and worked together with us and the people from the youth party of this people owning the islands. This is a winter picture. It's really cold in here in winter. So now I'm going to use the last time to talk about the work we do for the National Defense Department. We have been working with this since our last owner of this firm, our partner, came to us after a year, and in 2000 or something, 2001. He came then with a military background and had been working for them when he was having his service, Norwegian military service for young guys at that time. Now it's both girls and guys. This is more of a topic where people healing nature. The military department have a lot of shooting range to train the military all over Norway. You see these spots here are the biggest training camps and fields that we have in Norway. Some of them are very, very old, some of them are quite new, but when the military reorganized themselves back in 2000 and around 2000 or 3 or something, they wanted us to look at which of these training camps or fields are we going to further develop, which are okay, and which one of these should we close. And it's not that easy to close these fields because there have been military training in these type of landscapes for since in between the First and Second World War. And they have been shooting with sharp items, bullets, bombs. Some of them are, of course, exploding when they hit stones, but some are hitting soft material and do not explode. So in these areas, they're quite dangerous to go. And actually, they are closed for ordinary people to walk into. So it's not that easy to just say to a municipality that happens to own one of these fields or be the land owner of one of these fields to, hey, here you have 100 square kilometer of land that you can just have, because you can't actually walk there. So it's a lot of investigation that is needed to find out where these items may be, how to get them away, how to handle this situation. It's not only explosive that's bad for these areas. It's also heavy metals that these explosives contains a lot of, like bly and copper and stuff like that nature can't deal with, and the nature dies. There is a film that we have made that you can all see after my lecture if you want to. It's on our website. It's called The Landscape Healing. We made that in 2019, where we were about to end one of the biggest fields that we have been working on in the middle of Norway. We won this fantastic Norwegian prize, the biggest design prize you can have in Norway, together with Snøhetta, that you may know, or that you will meet next week, that made this underneath. They got it for their underneath restaurant. We got it for this project. And it's funny that we as architects actually are working with a project that is actually to take something man-made or with a great man impact to be nothing when we are done. If we are successful in this work, this is almost nature that is not touched by humans. And this one field here that the film is about is now handed over to a national park. It was in the middle of one of the biggest national parks in Norway when they were bombing from planes, war fighters, plane fighters, and huge bombs and tanks and stuff. They were really playing war up here. And now, in the last 20 years, we have been collaborating, of course. It's not only us, it's a big group of people to clean up this place. I think these pictures down here is to show you what was wild landscape in 1900 of Norway. And wild landscape, I think, is where you have 1 kilometer to the nearest man-made item at all. So in the 1900, all these darker dots looked like this, and then in 2013 it was almost no untouched land back in Norway at all. I go a little bit back and forth, but that's, yes. So what we have to do is actually to be like investigators, talking to old people that have been running this shooting range, looking in old books, because they are supposed to write down every shot taken and what direction and where it hits, but you know, they don't do it that often. We have to go into the landscape with these measures that can measure heavy metal in ground. And we have to map the different parts of this shooting range where it's very polluted or where it's not so polluted. And we have to, perhaps the only thing you can find is this kind of thing here, needle or feather, or perhaps some part of a type of rocket looking like this. So all these small parts here tells a story of what it has once been, and where and how we then can handle this to clean this work up. So it's all these kind of measures. Some is taking with scanners. Some is actually where people walk beside each other, to walk very slowly, first with dogs and afterwards with people, to try to detect if there is anything in this area, and if there is, step back, call the bomb group coming in to explode it under control and then pick up the pieces again. So it's hard work that costs a lot of money. So here you see all this young military, first service people going into this landscape. Here you can see how a landscape is. I think this is digged out, but this is not. How it looks, there are not growing any plants here because of the heavy metal that are in this ground, very polluted ground. And then they have to dig it out, either take the polluted soil away to places where you can handle it, or to cover it in at the spot so it doesn't. And then it's really packing it in watertight so it doesn't leave water from this earth going further down into the landscape, and then at the end ending up in the sea. So here we see the people walking with sticks and looking for any metal or plastic item that could tell a story about what has been going on, and if they of course find undetonated bombs and stuff, they have to be very careful. So this is this landscape where they have been shooting from planes into this area that contains of soft land and hard land, It's rocky, but it's also small rivers and lakes and areas where a lot of moisture is, these wetlands and stuff. We are still working with this project. There are many of these fields that are going to go back to the public if they can, because we have reorganized our military, so it's more to a professional military. Before, every boy at the age of 18 went in for a year in the military. This system is not longer so. You can apply to go in, and you can also be boys and girls. And you can apply to be a part of the military for a year or two. And then it's much more a specialized education you get. This is due to international and European, military new concepts of war and stuff. I know that every land in Europe have these places. Denmark has big places in their sand dunes, same as Netherlands. Probably you have shooting ranges. Probably you have ranges that are not used anymore. That is nature, but you can't walk in them because it's too dangerous. And there will be, I guess, same as in Norway, a demand in a way to get these nature parts or landscapes back to the public, to heal the landscape so that the plants can breathe and create oxygen for us in this catch CO2, make woods again and stuff like that. So it's actually big parts of our countries are occupied by old and very polluted areas. And it's also a big discussion we have in Norway whether we like windmills to produce green energy. And the discussion goes now a lot here because they destroy the nature while putting up these big windmills. And but if it's planned good, it could be more easy to take it back to nature if we find energy sources where we don't need our windmills anymore. So if you know how to take things away, then you also know perhaps how to build it up. That it's not that difficult to take back to nature. So it's a big knowledge that are occurring in Norway, and especially then through the military defense department, to how to, in a way, go further in the future, not destroying the landscape more than, in a way, necessary. Because I think they have learned a lesson now where this costs a lot of money. Of course, we are lucky in Norway to have this money to do this, but I think this will force itself forward when we need land to either make food for people or we need it for catching CO2 and producing oxygen and so on. So, we need this knowledge on how to rewild damaged nature and to heal it. First heal it and then rewild it. Yes, that was my lecture for you. 2 minutes left until
Espen, thank you very much for this very interesting and I would say appealing lecture with really this message. The last message was, very important in general. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think there will be quite a lot of questions from the side of our students. Perhaps we can. Perhaps you can stop the sharing.
Yeah, I will stop the sharing because this
because that will look something like we see something.
Yeah, stop presentation.
Oh yeah, now we can see you. Great. Okay, we already have a question from the student side.
Yeah.
I will read it for you if you don't mind, because we use this chat tool. Nikolai is asking, did you experience this kind of workshop for first year students when you studied, or is it something that started to be organized recently? It seems like architecture students in Bergen learn more in first month than than us in 6 years.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're welcome to Norway. I didn't got the first sentence actually. What was the first question?
If you have experienced this during your studies, if the
Yeah,
program was already there.
I will answer that. I was the first student at BUS. I was one of the first 18 students starting at this school when it started up in '86. So we didn't have this developed program. We had some of it together with those two teachers that started up this school, but we did not have not the same way as it is today. I just have to close the door because I can hear my washing people are coming, cleaning up. So 2 seconds. Yes, I'm back. So this has developed, but I think after 3 years of running the school, this program was on was almost how it is now. We were other places because in a way we use up these places. People, the local people of Norway are very, in a way, conservative in the way that what we have is good, nothing new is good. So what are these people doing, and so on. Although we fix their buildings and stuff, it's kind of hard to be in these areas. We have to be very careful how we behave, and but it's also a good thing for the students to learn that they can't do anything out here. It's actually, we have to take very much care of the locals, and if we are being nice, they are nice to us. And it's also important, since we are not there all the time, that we have locals that actually know that we have students on these islands if anything should happen. But because to travel up there where they are takes me almost 5 hours.
Yeah, this last remark, I mean, it was quite important to say that the students, they are not left completely alone there, because it was a little bit like scary. Okay, you are left here for weeks.
They live alone. I mean, these islands are not inhabited. There are perhaps some cabins where there can be people, but we are in a way off season. But we still have people we can call, and it's a very well-run society with a boat going, passing these islands every two times a day. And it's very easy to get the hospital boat coming, and we are prepared to take these calls and say, okay, we have a group out there that have problems, can you go and help them? So it's a very well-organized society. And the area is not out, it's not facing, one of the reasons why we are here actually is that they are not facing the worst storms from the Atlantic Ocean. It's kind of protected where these islands are situated. And they are not allowed to go in boats. Yeah, so you have to be strict on some parts, and then of course, we have to tell them to take care of each other.
Yeah.
It has been we have had one accident, really bad accident, many years ago. And we, of course, where we had 3 students that were dying, they were taken by the waves, but they were not knowing where they were, and that was very bad. And now we are in a very secure place. Still, they are outside. But in my 12 years, the only accident we have is somebody walking on a nail, something getting through the foot, or some dust in the eye and a cut in the finger. But we are also very, we talk a lot about the accident we had. It was a sad thing. But we still think that this program is so valuable for them to learn on their body, the rain and the wind, to be architects that are planning houses that are standing on their own all year round.
Absolutely. I mean, it must be a great adventure at one side, but on the other side, really a good preparation for studies. Okay, we have there is another question from Katarina.
Mm.
You are doing a great job. She is
Thank you.
right at the beginning. Then you publish, or do you did you publish, or do you want to publish some book about project understanding in the landscape, or people healing nature, or another? So I don't know. Have you this kind of plans?
Yeah, we are this office. We are now 25 people here at my office. So we have employed approximately one person a year. That is not true. Some are quitting, and then we need more people. But still, we are around 25. We have for, I don't know, 6 years planned a book. There will come a book about our office, all of our work. It's this thick book. Soon there is the Swedish company that wants to give it out. So yeah, there will be a book about our office. We have made a film about the project. So I recommend. It's a very nice movie made of an English guy that was a husband to one that used to work here. It's fantastic footage, and this my partner that really runs this project here explaining it, and you see in a way how this work is brought through. It's on our webpage. It's called Healing Landscape. You will find it on our news. Go into the news, and then it's the second thing. I think the third thing. The first news is that I'm talking here now, but okay. And there is a link where you can see the movie. Yeah.
It is easy to be found, and I checked it. It works. So you are all the students. You are welcome to see it after the discussion, perhaps.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you right at the beginning that you mentioned Oscar Hansen and his concept of open form. I don't know if our students are familiar with this, but I just want to comment on it, that basically it is about that the architecture project or the work of art is never finished. It's somehow open to be for the users or for the participation, etc., etc. For example, the Italian writer and Umberto Eco, he used this opera aperta, like unfinished work for the city, as an unfinished work. But I wanted to ask you how you deal actually with this concept in your work. Speaking about, I don't know, these examples that you have shown us today. If you work with this, and if, then how?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and it's not that easy to answer because we are many, as all our partners are from BAS. We are all from this school. But we have, of course, a lot of employees that are not having this background. I'm teaching in some of it for the first year, but it's more we call it visual structure, more the language of open form, these small tasks of contrasts, and where we discuss form in very specifically, we discuss only what we see, not what is the meaning of it. It's out. But open form is you could call it architecture or things that are adaptable to new expressions. I'm about to make a lecture from our project where I could talk about it. But I think a lot of our open form projects, and we see some of our scenic route projects as containing at least the language of open form, that this is it's presenting, it's in a contrast, it's shapes that are standing next to each other and showing each other. We have a student project that I have been working with. It was finished in 2011 or something, where I can in a way discuss where it's possible to see that it's a structure that is designed so that you can adapt or can put things in that doesn't destroy your design. It doesn't. I mean, it's hard to actually pinpoint where we use it and where we don't. But I think in that project we do. Yeah, it is. I think more important than to. I don't know how to explain this, but a lot of architecture today is designed as a piece that is a design piece. It's finished. It is like it should be when it's designed. And if you try to do something with it or add something to it, it will not be the same piece anymore. And I think for us to in the future we should. I think actually. What Bas is struggling with now, our head of school, he died some years ago and he's not there anymore. And he was a pupil of Oscar Hansen in Warszawa at a certain time, and Oscar Hansen has been here. So we don't have these people that really knew the beginning of this open forum discussion. And of course, it started also in a period of time where it was perhaps very necessary. The world have changed, the architecture have changed, but I can see now that this adaptability to architecture is perhaps a very important issue, so that our structures that we build, our main structures, like this house, this old wood house on beams with columns, is a type of an open forum house that can be added as long as you want it. If you need 5 meters more, it's no problem. But the structures that we built now the main structures to keep up a house should never been taken down again, because we then use too much energy. And I see constantly houses that are made in the 70s, big office blocks. They take it down and build it up again, because it's easier, and it's also all the regulations that we have on the roof or volume heights and stuff that they can't put in the ventilation and stuff. But I also see rules that are due to this, that if we build floors high enough, it's actually easier to take off the facade, to take away the interior, and rebuild the house for another use. And this is part of the open forum philosophy, I think. So
absolutely. But I was also wondering when I was looking at your clearing project on Utøya Island, that there is also a kind of this openness towards the participants, that actually the mothers, fathers, and all the relatives that participated in the project, and that actually put something from them to your idea to develop it somehow. So this is really also, for me, it was somehow a good illustration of such an approach.
Yeah.
Okay, but there is another. Sorry. I don't want to interrupt you if you want to add something. Okay, because then we have another question from our student side. From Christina is asking. You've mentioned several times that some of your solutions were quite expensive. Do you have something? Like a proven argument that it's not usually seen over here in Slovakia? Something that is not usually seen over here in Slovakia. So, who is hiring you for this kind of job? Because the materials used there were not exactly the cheapest. No,
do you have something like a proven argument that can convenient the investors? Because you state that many good ideas are usually not implemented precisely because of a lack of funds, which is a huge pity.
Sorry, I mixed two questions together. Now it's clear.
Yeah, I just partly understood it, but of course, this scenic route project that was, I mean, established to get young Norwegian architect on the international map, and behind that was a lot of money. It was not only to establish young architects, but it was only to take care of the nature. It was, of course, it was also to make toilets and stuff. But they had a lot of money to do it. So the money was never, or not a lot, in question on these projects. They are still, you know, not a very expensive project because they are so small. In a way, but there's a lot of things you need to do with the ground and landscape to establish this, and of course it costs money. But the state of Norway, full of oil, had the money for this. So for this small project, we were paid by hour. We didn't have to give in any frame for money and time, and so we were, if they liked our design, they had money to make it, to build it. We, as an architect office here in Bergen, we are actually working mostly for people that don't have all that money, like student housing and healthcare centers and municipalities and stuff that are lacking money. So what we actually deal the most with is to get the most out of, not that much money. So we are not an office that have very rich customers that want to have their own villas for 1,000 square meters. We don't do that. We actually work a lot for municipalities and state things. And of course, it's a trick there, because I think if you work for them, you have stable money. And if you work for the private market, you have perhaps more money, but it's more unstable money in a way. It's more due to the money in the world going up and down and stuff, you know. So it's been actually an idea for us not to go into too much private design or private money.
Yeah, because the next question that I mixed with the previous one was actually about this, that from who is actually the client of this, let's say, scenic roads.
Yeah, that is the state.
I mean, this is a kind of touristic.
Yeah, the Norwegian state.
Yeah, okay.
It's one of the department. I can't recall the name of the department, but it's the road department of Norway. Yeah. Infrastructure road department, making roads and railroads and stuff. Yeah.
But it's quite clear that it was a part of a, let's say, a national, somehow a national movement or a national decision, governmental decision to improve somehow this kind of industry.
Yeah, and they really wanted to put architecture on the map, seeing that Denmark and Sweden were much more famous in their architecture. And it has really been a success for a lot of young, not young anymore, but offices around Norway. I have been in Italy, I have been in Central Europe holding lectures about this. And very often they say, oh, this is something our country also should do, because we also have viewpoints, we also have tourists going around, they also destroy our nature. So it's actually a program or a thing that a lot of countries would like to do. And I know also that some countries now, like Denmark and stuff, have put this almost the same program into their architecture.
Actually, it's very clever strategy. We have here a question from side of my colleague, Cornelius. Go ahead.
Hi, it was actually...
No, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
If you want to shut down, and now
Okay, sorry, now it works. I was actually going to ask you a question about your rewilding project. What's the intended purpose of the reclaimed material, the reclaimed heavy metals that you're going to? What are you going to do with this after you've cleared the landscape?
With all the metals, I don't know. They are collected. You know, all these guys that you saw walking around in the landscape, they have these rucksacks on their back. And every day they walk out with these rucksacks empty and they come back with them full of metal. And I think it will go to reuse of metals because they are not dangerous anymore. They don't contain any, all explosives and stuff is gone. And it's not radioactive, so they can be remelted, reused, but I don't know exactly what they do about it. They should reuse it. It would be cool.
No, okay, thank you. It was actually that was actually one of the main questions I had for this project was how do you take it further? Because now the landscape is cleared.
Yeah.
What happens next? Apart from that, it's rewild it.
Yeah.
How do you have a small, almost small monument or just a reference to what once was used on this site?
Yeah, this film that you can see afterwards is rewilding because that was in the middle of a national park. So that should be, I mean, go back to normal development of natural nature, develop itself, and there's happening nothing there. You can take a walk with your tent if you want. Very many other places are inside small municipalities, and they need this land either for housing or food development or farming. So they are really eager to, in a way, get this piece of land back to their municipality, and then they can decide for themselves, actually, on the municipality plans what they want to use it for. So that is very different from each municipality, what they see benefit them the most. If it is a just nature thing, or is it actually going to be part of a new development plan for, I don't know, housing or industry, but you know, you can't use them before you have cleaned it up.
And at the beginning of this, when you, yeah, as you explain the idea of this rewilding, you showed us the map of Norway, and there are many of these kind of spots where you have this problem. So this is a kind of like a big project that will now continue, or it was just a trial and well.
No, we have been working for this for 20 years, and we still are working on it, and there are still places we are going to work on for the next 20 years. I think there is a lot, and it takes a long time to clean them up. But you know, it's all owned. Yeah, it's owned by the military. The Norwegian Defense Department is the biggest real estate owner of Norway when it comes to flat land or land. But they are inside municipalities, and when they give it away, they give it to the municipality and say, okay, now it's clean. It's not necessarily rewild, but it's clean, and you can now use it for what you feel the best use of. And then it's the municipality that decides how to use it. But there are a lot of these fields that are not cleaned up yet. I think we are working today, I don't know, at six fields at the same time. But of course, we are not that involved in all of them, because they know now also how to do it themselves, what to search for. But we very often organize the beginning of the work. We are very often the detectives that are trying to make the maps, to figure out what is the problem here, what kind of sickness is this. But we are not the doctor that fix it anymore. we have never been. I mean, there is a lot of other people doing that, but we are in a way part of the group making this what you call it, diagnostics on what is wrong here, and yeah.
So you actually developed the strategy of diagnostic and etc.
Yeah.
So that's really great.
And
We have here.
The funny thing about it is that why should architects do this? But the Norwegian Defense Department has actually used architects for this type of work for many, many, many years. They like how architects think when it comes to very complicated issues. And it's not necessary about architecture.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago, we have had a lecture from Biotop, and this was a very similar story that actually architects are dealing with surroundings for birds. So not very typical for our standard education. So it's really like Norwegian architects, they're inventing new roles for the architecture profession in general.
And I think also perhaps this Tormod from this Biotop, he is also a BAS student, and I think this school has in a way had an impact on how you think about environment in general. I think this, and it could be, I won't say it's not the open forum type of what is important when you go into a landscape. What do you look for? How is it used before? Like my students going out on these islands, how is it? What to take in? What to take in consideration? So, and I think also this another thing that's not is it's BAS thing, but how architects are in a way we are the only person in a way that knows a little bit of everything going on in when you build a house. I need to know what the plumber is doing, what the electrician is doing, what the construction guys are doing, and everything. So the architect's in a way in a middle central to get anything done. So an architect is very used to collaborate with different people and not necessarily get the fine design done, but to get all these people working together. And that's the same when you are dealing with city planning or regional planning or this defense department. We need to know who to ask, and we are good to find out. If we see a problem, then we ask people that know this, and then we learn a little bit about that, and then we find a way of dealing with it, and we suggest this into an organization that takes it on.
Absolutely.
That is the way of working on if it's landscape or a building.
Yes, this was very precisely defined. And actually, as you have mentioned, how your students are already during their studies prepared for such a way of thinking. We have here a question from the student side, from Alexandra. She's wondering if it has something, concerns about nature, if it has something with studies at the university, if students have some subjects that are connected with this topic, and when they finish their studies, they are just familiar with this way of thinking. So you've shown us this very first program they have in their first year. But are there any other specialized programs your students have in Bergen in their next years or during their studies?
Yeah, we have a lot of at BAS, and that's quite small school. It's only 300 pupils for 5 years, and the program for the first 3 years, the bachelor program, is quite as it has been for 20 years. So it's a very type of strict program you go through to, in a way, handle yourself when you come to the master or study more deeply things. So we have a lot of different things that they go through, of course. I can't tell you all about that, but I think that there is one other issue that we have in Norway that they don't have in Denmark. I mean, every country has nature, but we have very much of it, and it's very steep, and it's very rough, and it's very windy, very rainy, very snowy, and it's not flat at all, almost nowhere. So, of course, landscape for a Norwegian is a big, big thing. We can't turn away. We can't turn our back to it, almost on anything you do. Of course, we have cities and flat parts, and East Norway is flatter and so on. But I think it's very presented in the Norwegian habits and where we come from and how we think. So I think, and that may be different from Central Europe, but of course there are landscape there also, and of course we have many similarities due to this. I mean, there are big mountains in Europe also, and fjords and lakes and stuff. Yeah, so that was part the correct answer, but at least from Norwegian, it's and the West Coast people and the northern people of Norway and stuff, they are very connected to the landscape. And that's who they are. They are a landscape, you know. I don't know how I can say it. But for us to design a building on a flat land is a problem, because where to start? Yeah, but we have been collaborating a lot with people from Denmark and Netherlands that in a way are very much better than us to figure out how to fix a city, what to do there, because most of Norway is not cities at all, it's very, very small communities. So they have another way of thinking around the development of city, and we have to learn that from them. Then we can learn people something about how to take care of nature, or how to be architects and build together with it. I think one of the biggest issues now is how to get green into the cities, how to get animals and greens and vegetables, and how to farm our city in a good way, because all people want to live in cities. And then it's this guy that I'm talking about, landscape ecologist, very good people in a way to collaborate with, because they know so much about which plant this bird is feeding from, and how to make these lines through the cities, how to have different trees so different species can jump from a tree to another. If you have a long road with only the same trees, there are only some species that can jump from one tree to another. So all this we need in a way we need to actually develop our world together with the nature in the future. We can't. We have been for too much time seeing cities as something else than nature, but we need now to merge these two.
Yeah, absolutely. You put it very clear, and I mean, when you've been talking about the collaboration, I mean, this is exactly the purpose of our project, to have this kind of international collaboration and to learn from each other, because this is the main thing with what we should do. And it was beautifully said, as you put it, that you in your country, you have this feeling of connection with nature, and we in our Central Europe, we have this connection with built environment, with this artificial environment. Your very famous phenomenologist Christian Norbert Schulz put it very clearly when speaking about this romantic landscape of Scandinavian and about classical landscape in our surroundings. So it was.
Yeah, I mean, we are not the city people at all in Norway. For the last 50 years perhaps, but you have been having cities for many hundred years, so you know a lot more about this, what's going on in the city and how this works and how we build nice cities.
Perhaps not the Slovaks, but Central Europeans in general. Yeah, okay, I don't know if we have some, I just check if there is some more, there are some more questions from the student side, and there is no so far. So dear students, if you have some questions, you should ask right now. If not, okay. I mean, they have asked quite a lot, so I will thank you, because Espen, it was really exciting, and we have touched so many topics, and I'm very grateful to you that you invested your time.
It was a pleasure.
Lecture.
It was a pleasure.
And the only pity is that it was not like in a physical form, because we would very much like to welcome you here in Bratislava and show you a little bit around. So
next time I will definitely come.
I hope so, and then we have to definitely to travel to Norway to experience the beautiful.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Stops at scenic roads.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, and good luck for your next work. And yeah, thank you.
Thank
for
you too.
being with us.
Yeah.
Have a nice evening.
Bye. Have a nice
Bye
evening.
bye. Bye.